Hello, my name is Ben Carpenter, and welcome to another edition of Gridiron History. In this episode, I want to talk about some rules that definitely needed to be changed. Prior to the 1900s, there were really no rules about balls that went out of bounds or touched objects in the field of play or out of the field of play. If the ball went out of bounds, it came back to whoever recovered it. So if the ball went into the stands, if it went out of bounds, went behind a bench, the players would run out and they would jump on the ball, and whoever brought it back had possession of the ball. Once that was done, once the player came back with the ball, they would walk up to the sidelines at the spot where it went out of bounds, and the referee or whoever was running the game that day, they would simply ask the player, how do you want to put the ball in play? And there were a couple of ways you could do that. The guy could say, I want to walk it out, and the official would let him walk the ball out 5 to 15 yards from the sidelines and put the ball in play from a scrimmage with a scrimmage play. Or he could say, I want to put the ball in touch, in which case the players, both teams would line up about 5-10 yards apart, perpendicular to the sidelines. The player would touch the ball on the ground. He would then stand up and throw it in to members of his team, or he could run the ball to start the play, kind of an offshoot of rugby, if you will. So that whole system without rules or with rules that anybody could bring it back needed a little change. In his 1927 book, Touchdown by Alonzo Stagg, Stagg recites a couple of instances in the 1890s that really brought about some thinking and some rule changes regarding this. One of the first things Stagg talks about is when Chicago went to play the University of Michigan at Madison Square Garden. He said early in the game a ball was kicked and it got stuck in the rafters. A few kicks after that, the ball hit the rafters and bounced down back to the field. And went bam, bam, and the ball remained in play. And you can see that could cause some issues. Then Stagg talks about a game where he took his University of Chicago team out to Stanford. And around the field at Stanford was a fence that was about 4 feet tall. During one of the plays, a ball went out of bounds and went over the fence. A Stanford player took off after the ball. He had about a 5-yard head start on the Chicago guy. But the Chicago guy, a guy named Ad Ewing, was a sprinter and a hurdler at the University of Chicago. He passed the guy, he hurdled the fence, and came back with the ball. Chicago retained possession. In another unique and very interesting play, Georgia, again, 1890s, Georgia was playing Georgia Tech. And there was a fence about 20 feet from the field, and it was about 14 feet tall. The fence was described as being very smooth and flat. Well, the Georgia team had kicked the ball. Georgia Tech kicked the ball. It somehow bounced off of the goalpost. It caromed off of the goalpost and went over that fence. Both teams from Georgia Tech, and they took off. These guys are sprinting to that fence, and they were trying, and as it's described, they were going up over the fence, and there were arms and legs, and guys were pulling each other back off of the fence, keeping them from going over, and it was a mad scramble to get over that fence. The referee was over to the side. The referee made it over the fence, and as he looked around, he spotted the ball in a ditch that was covered in weeds. The referee put on his best poker face and just stood back while the players looked around for the ball. After about 5 minutes, a Georgia Tech guy named Red Wilson found the ball in the ditch, and he fell on it for a touchdown. And then the last story I'll share with you was Gettysburg was playing a school called Franklin and Marshall. In that game, they had the crowd near the sidelines, and there were some policemen doing crowd control. And a policeman wasn't paying attention. He kind of wandered on the field a little bit, and one of the teams drop kicked. They tried to drop kick a field goal, and the ball was falling short. The policeman didn't see it, but it's described as the ball hit him in his upper chest and bounced through the goalpost for a field goal. After that, a few years later, the rules committee got together and they started talking about it, and they modified the rules a little bit for the ball striking things in the field of play and how they would bring it in. But it wasn't until 1970 that the rules were made very clear and specific about the ball hitting objects on the field. And the rule from 1970 is now that a football is declared dead if it goes out of bounds, but also if it hits anything other than a player, the ground, or an official. So there's some stories to illustrate a rule change, and I hope you enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you on another edition of Gridiron History. Thank you.